line. Look at the back of my head. That's gonna drive me crazy. All right, what's up with the green screen? I'm gonna slide on out of the frame. And we gonna get started. Uno momento. I didn't realize how wide the range is on my camera. Okay, it is 5:30. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do some emotional regulation. We're gonna inhale and exhale 3 times. That is going to regulate that limbic system, especially the fraternal twins, Lala and Amy, the left and right amygdala. It's also going to send some notification to the prefrontal cortex that we're going to be using the brain por la hoy today. I am going to count you down in descending order, 3, 2, 1. And when we get to 1, you're going to inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. And then we will get this party started. 3, 2, 1. I'm coming back in frame. It's always interesting to see where my breathing capacity is in the morning, even after my nasal rinse. Thank you, U.S. Army, with my sinusitis and rhinitis and all that other stuff. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is me, Dr. Donna Louise Thomas Rogers. I am the daughter of Leslie Darnell Thomas, granddaughter of Arthur Jethro Evelyn II, and great-granddaughter of Levi Thomas. Welcome to your morning mental workout today. We have done our cleansing breaths, and I just want to remind you that this right here is liquid gold. This is water, agua, basa. You will need some water as you are actually doing a mental workout. Your brain is 75% water, and as a result, it needs hydration. If you're on the West Coast like myself, you've been up for a little bit. I've been up for a minute. But if you've just woken up, your body was resting and it still needs hydration because of the work that it was doing while you were resting. Okay, so today's topic is a running shoes brain as a metaphor. And I'm going to move out the way. Isn't that adorable? Look at that little brain with those sneakers on. That is so cute, right? I thought it was adorable. I said, look at the little brain with the running shoes. It was so cute. Okay, so we're using running shoes as a metaphor. I like the grapefruit brain and using it as a metaphor, so I will continue to do metaphoric things with the brain. I feel like it really gives you a sense of understanding of the brain and not just some, good morning, not just some thing that's just out there that you can't connect with. Okay, so running shoes as a brain. Here's my quote for the day. A real leader knows the brain like running shoes. A real leader knows the brain like running shoes must be broken in through daily training. Good morning, Lola. I'll say that quote again. A real leader knows the brain like running shoes must be broken in through daily training. So let's look at the brain as a metaphor, running shoes as a metaphor for the brain. Number 1, preparation and protection. Running shoes protect your feet from harsh impact, just like your prefrontal cortex protects your decision making by filtering distractions and cushioning you against impulsive reactions. Both are designed to prepare you for the journey ahead and minimize damage. So your running shoes are there to protect you. I made the mistake when I was in basic training way back in June of 1990. I wanted to be cute when I got to basic training. So I had some red, gray, and white Nike Air Maxes. As soon as I put those shoes on, Drill Sergeant Bowright said, "Brat, you gonna get shin splints because of them shoes." I said, "Drill Sergeant, you don't know what you're talking about. I look good in these shoes." And guess what happened 4 weeks later? Guess who had shin splints because of those doggone Nike Air Maxes? Me. I've never ran in a Nike shoe again, and I know Ulick broke 2 in his Nike shoes, but in that moment, I switched to Asics, and I ran in Asics until I couldn't run and then no more. And people didn't like my shoes, and now every shoe out here looks like those Asics that I was running in way back in the 90s. But I learned a very valuable lesson. You need to understand what shoes, running shoes, work best for you. Has Nike come a long way? Absolutely. Can you run in Air Maxes miles and miles and miles? I think not. I know I can't, especially with these knees. I can't even run anymore. But I learned a very, very, very valuable lesson. And from that point forward, even when I ran track, I ran in Reebok spikes. So I was not a Nike wearer when it came to athletic shoes. In fact, I don't have any Nikes. I don't even think I ever bought another pair. Yeah, I didn't buy another pair of Nike shoes after that. That's interesting. No, I did have, no, that was after. Okay, so yeah, no more Nikes for me. So the point is that the running shoes protect your feet from the harsh impact, and your prefrontal cortex protects your decision making by filtering out distractions and cushioning you against impulsive reactions. So that means it's telling you, hey, don't listen to the amygdala. The amygdala is having a bad day. We're not paying attention to any of that. We're not letting unaccountable people give us some external anxiety. We are good. So it is insulating you and it is cushioning you. Okay. All right. Next is number 2 is the prefrontal. I'm sorry, I apologize. 2 is performance and efficiency. So high quality running shoes improve your stride, your balance, and your endurance. Similarly, the brain's neural networks streamlines thoughts, patterns, and behaviors, making cognitive miles more efficient. So when your circuits are well trained, your mental performance feels lighter and faster, like a good pair of shoes making running smoother. So when you have those high quality running shoes, and people at basic training were putting on those Brooks and they had all those cheap shoes on, and I was like, nah, you got to spend some money on your running shoes. So if you are exercising and you are running and you get on some cheap shoes, you are going to feel it in the long term. So make sure that you have on high performance running shoes. And neurologically, you want to make sure that you are making cognitive miles more efficient. And so when your circuits are well trained, your mental performance feels lighter and faster. And how you do that is you learn something every day. You learn something every single day, and that is increasing your working memory because you are going to the hippocampus bank of neurons and you are making a withdrawal and you are challenging yourself. And so things get faster and faster and more efficient for you. This is a story that I use all the time with my daughter when she started out on TaskRabbit 4.5 years ago. Her first task was the IKEA mom bed, and it took her 2.5 hours to put that bed together. Today, she could knock that bad boy out in about 35 minutes. So that is efficiency, and that is improving her circuitry because of all of the hundreds of beds that she has put together since that mom bed. Anytime IKEA used to take us out, sometimes it's still a little too IKEA-esque, but for the most part, we can, anything that's IKEA, we definitely can put it faster, put it together more efficiently than this other stuff. Because anyway, I digress. The point is that when you use your working memory and when you learn and you keep learning, the things that used to trouble you or cause you to be inefficient is no longer the reality for you. Me, I'm in my soon to be next week in my 11th month of studying the brain every single day. Today makes live number 659 for me. So when you do something every single day, you get better and better and better and better at it. So now I'm using a tablet. I got a notebook. I got a brain background. I'm moderating and everything else all at the same time. But 659 days ago, I just pressed live on TikTok with no agenda and no purpose, just really trying to figure out what I was going to do on my lives. So you become more performance, there's a higher performance level, and you become more efficient because you are doing it daily and you have the right shoes on. So I have the right materials to deliver this message to you on the daily basis. Number 3 is support and alignment. Running shoes keep the body aligned. I'm going to say that again. Running shoes keep the body aligned. And what it does is they prevent injuries by supporting your arches, your ankles, and your joints. And when I had those Nike Air Maxes on, I wasn't getting and arch support. It did support my ankle and it did support my joints, and that's why I ended up with damn shin splints. So in the same way, the ACC and the basal ganglia keep your thoughts, your habits, and your focus aligned, helping you avoid, wait for this, mental injuries. And I am going to do something with that. Let me write that down. Mental injuries like burnout and poor decisions. Now, you probably wasn't even thinking about that in that way. So burnout is a mental injury. A mental injury. So your running shoes are preventing injuries from, they support your arches, your ankles, and your joints. And your anterior cingulate cortex and basal ganglia are keeping your thoughts and your focus aligned, helping you avoid mental injuries like burnout and poor decisions. Now, how you get to burnout is very simple. And I was speaking to Regina about this yesterday. And it is say no. Say no. Everybody right now, say no. Everybody that's here, go ahead and type no in the comments. And you can say it in Spanish too. No. Go ahead and type it. Let's see if you actually know how to spell it. N-O. Type no in the comments. No. And you don't even have to say thank you. You can just say no. Because no is a complete sentence. Would you like some alcohol, Dr. Donna? No. Would you like a red velvet cake right now? No. You are saying it. No. No stops the burnout. No stops people from hijacking your amygdala. No stops people from coming and using your neural pathway connections that you created because they didn't create theirs. So you say no. No. Done with burnout. No. Would you? No. People tell me, I know you about to say no. Okay, cool. Got it. Don't ask that. If you already know I'm about to say no, why are we having this conversation? No. And then poor decision making. Guess when you make your worst decisions? And it's no, not when you are inebriated. It's when your amygdala is hijacked. Because some people can focus if they've had a couple drinks, but some people can't. And I tell you when, you can be sober as the day is long. You can be a teetotaler. And still, that amygdala is coming to ruin your day. My left and right amygdala yesterday, they started, soon as I got off the live, they started. And they did not stop until we got back home at like 8:30, 9 o'clock yesterday. I mean, 8 o'clock. Insane. And so that's when you make those very, 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 this is a technical term. It's an acronym for it. It's called a DAP. And it is a dumbass plan. You start making DADs, dumbass decisions, because those amygdalas are saying, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. And they're like, yeah, left amygdala's like, go, yeah, do it. And all the time, guess what they're doing? They're just releasing cortisol. And the hippocampus can't remind you, hey, that's a bad idea, because the cortisol is like, smoke. And then the cortisol is releasing into the prefrontal cortex. And then next thing you know, you have made a dumbass decision because you did not have support. You did not have the right brain running shoes on. You weren't aligned. Your focus wasn't there. It was a bad habit. Your thoughts weren't cognitively sound because of that. So anytime you find yourself burnt out, you didn't say no, and anytime you done made a poor decision, just trace it back to the fraternal twins, Lala and Amy. Which one of them talked you into that dumbass decision? Because it came from them. Okay? Number 4 is adaptability. So different terrains require different shoes. Trail runners, sprinters, or marathon trainers. And one thing, when I was in high school, we had most of our tracks were those rubber tracks. They took those tires and used old tires and made new tracks. But Central High School was the only high school in Detroit Public Schools that had a cement track. I don't know what the hell they was thinking. And so we all had to have rubber sole spikes in order to run on that. But everywhere else, we could have indoor and outdoor spikes. So it was longer for outdoor than indoor season. Obviously, you can't wear spikes running on trails or cross country, because then you would turn your ankle. So you have different types of running shoes. Now, the other thing that I would like to say is when I was in basic training, when I was an executive officer in basic training units, we did the paper towel test. And so what happened is you put that awful cheap ass government paper towel on the floor, and you take the privates, you put their foot in water, and then you put their foot on the paper, and it tells you where the wear is on the foot. So if you overpronate, that means that right outside part of your heel is going to wear on your shoes. And if you underpronate, like my ex-husband and my daughter, that means that the inside of your shoes are going to wear more. And then if you're flat foot or if you have small arches or higher arches, all of that is going to show up on that paper towel. Now, I'm sure they got a better way of doing it now, but now you know what your foot pattern is. And then you go and purchase shoes based upon your foot pattern. So Captain Libby, my company commander, when I was an executive training officer, he wore New Balance because he had long, fat, wide feet with a little bitty tiny arch. And so that was the only shoe that he could wear that was perfect for him. Me, I'm always have on the Asics. Again, I can't run anymore, but when I did, I had Asics well up until after the time I left the military, still having them on because they got good cushion. So you have to understand what terrain you're on, but you also have to understand your brain. Does that make sense? So likewise, the brain shows neuroflexibility, adjusting to different environments, stressors, or challenges. So just as you wouldn't wear track spikes on a rocky trail, the brain adapts its gears. That's its strategies, habits, problem-solving approaches to match the landscape of life. So in my daughter's business, there are things that will throw her off her square, and I won't bat an eye. And then there are things in her business, 90% of the time, she won't bat an eye, and I'm over here sweating like I stole something. Like, we got to do what? And they said, wait, okay, all right, give me a second. Wait a minute. Wait, how many cabinets is it? How many chairs is it? I told y'all we put 40-something chairs together in one day in 8 hours at a restaurant while the restaurant was open. It was open. We got there at 8. It opened at 10. We left at the end of the day. And so they had their breakfast, dinner, and lunch rush. And we were off to the side, putting those chairs together, changing them out as people were coming in and out of the restaurant. Talk about no pressure. I think it might have been 46. No, it was 46, 48. Anyway, it was all the chairs, the bar stools and the chairs at the table. She changed them over to this mesh, that Sherpa material. So I have to be adaptable. I have to understand strategies, habits, problem solving approaches to, it was 46. So 46 chairs in about 8 hours, somewhere around there. So bar stools and then table chairs and dining chairs for you to sit at. It's a vegan restaurant. It's a very nice restaurant. Anyway, the point is that I have to be adaptable, and be flexible is one of the 74 principles of real leadership, because you need to be flexible. Now, what brain function or what region do you use to be flexible? Let's see if anybody can answer that question. So my question to you is, what region of the brain, or what is it called when you're being flexible in the brain? Y'all like Dr. Donna? You're just supposed to be talking right now. You're supposed to be asking no questions in this morning. I will give you a hint. It is in the executive function, which is in the prefrontal cortex. So what do you use in order to be adaptable? And Regina's going to her meeting today, so she can't help y'all out. So what region of the brain are you using for adaptability? Located in the executive function. Do not ask chat. It is the executive function, but it's a specific part of the executive function. They're the trio in the executive function. If you don't know, just put a question mark. It's the least one we talk about. We talk about inhibition, control, and working memory. All right, it is cognitive flexibility. Cognitive flexibility. I went over this a while ago. Yes, so it's in the executive function is working memory, inhibition, control, and Kevin said dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. The working memory is in that part, yes, but it is the working memory, the working memory, working memory, inhibition, control, and then cognitive flexibility. So that's what you're going to do to be adaptable. Okay, you're going to be flexible. So if you think of the principle of real leadership, you think of the executive function, those two go together. So cognitive flexibility allows you to adapt to the situation. It also allows you to focus if there's a bunch of things going on around you, which is what you need to do to eliminate distractions as well. And then number 5 is growth and endurance. And so, right, okay, growth and endurance. So breaking in running shoes takes time. Anybody knows you do not take those running shoes out the box and go run 5 miles. I'm grading on the curve. I am, Kevin. I am grading on the curve. Yes, y'all are the curve. So yes, I am grading on the curve. It was just a pop quiz, so it won't go on your transcript. How about that? Growth and endurance. Breaking in running shoes takes time, just like strengthening synaptic connections through practice and repetition. And I mentioned this the other day, like 2 days ago. I said you can get some firing and wiring going on at a weekend retreat. You can even get some firing and wiring going on for a 30-day challenge to build your confidence. But if they don't actually get repeated again and again and again, and it wasn't a true synaptic connection, it's going to stop. And that's how you say, man, I remember when I used to work out all the time, and then I stopped, and now I need to go back. Man, I remember when I used to read a book a week. I ain't read a book in 15 years because the connections, you stopped doing it, so the connection stopped connecting, the hippocampus stopped saying read, and they think, 2 decades in passed and you haven't read a book. So you have to keep that connection through practice and repetition. So each mile in the shoes is like repetition of learning and eventually making your mental stride more natural, automatic, and enduring. It's nothing for me now to get up to prepare for these lives with the brain. As I mentioned, I started 659 days ago. No agenda, sitting on the other side of my desk, various different times of the day. That was November 2023. By January, end of January 2024, I had a format. I realized I had to get some order because people was acting, you think they acting crazy now. They was off the chain back then for sure. And I don't even know what people say off the chain anymore. So they were really acting up. Bunch of recalcitrance is basically what it was. So I needed some order and some structure. So then I started having an agenda, and now I am where I am now because of the endurance. When you got to get up every day, the day 659, it's automatic for me. If for some reason I forgot to set up the live, ran out of time, didn't have an agenda, I could hit live and talk for a whole complete hour, no agenda or anything, and I would still be able to succinctly recall what I needed to say and give you all a message, a lesson that you could actually use. So you want the growth and endurance to get to your mental stride, and it will be more natural and automatic, and you will be able to endure. One day when I was training, I had different running books because I hate long distance running. Yes, Jessica said, I'm learning to adapt without panic. Yes, ma'am, you are. And that is because you are regulating your emotions and your prefrontal cortex is getting stronger. And so I've always hated distance running. I'm like, why do we have to run for 4 miles at a 9-minute pace or less for who? And it's for the colonels. It's for the people who like running. Because one thing about officers in the military may have changed now, but their sit-ups and their push-ups, and they do a whole different PT test. Weak as hell. But everybody can see you running. So that's the thing that everybody knew how to do. I'm like, this is dumb. When have you ever seen somebody in a movie running for 4 miles in a t-shirt and some shorts? What we did was we packed a ruck and we had to road march everywhere in full gear. So wasn't nobody going to be able to beat me in no ruck march. That wasn't about to happen. It's this running for no intended purpose. I'm like, this is not what's going to happen in war. This is not what we're going to be doing. But I digress. So you still have to do those battalion runs and show who's strong and who's weak. So anyway, my endurance for that, I had a whole book that I read. And so one day I ran 10 miles on the treadmill just to see if I could do it. Because you have to do sprints, and you have to do endurance, and you have to run fast, and you have to run slow. That's what this book I had way back in 2000, 2001. And so I actually did 10 miles on the treadmill just to get my stamina and my endurance and everything up. It was a long 10 miles, and I can't run anymore, but if I could, I wouldn't do that again. Ever, never, ever. So you want to increase your growth and endurance, and that's breaking your shoes in one day at a time. And so 3 years ago, when I was cussing everybody out, saying these motherfuckers ain't shit, can't even hold themselves accountable for 365 days, weak asses. Ugh! These people! Ugh! I need real people in my life. Now, 3 years later, I know better. And it might even be 4 years later, I know better. I know that it is neurological. I know that the limbic system and the fraternal twins, Amy and Lala, will stop you dead in your tracks and you won't be able to do shit. So I have now come to the conclusion that, okay, great. Give them some grace, give them some mercy, start them on a subscription on Instagram and TikTok. Let them build their endurance up, find out where their defects of character are, and go from there. Because no, you just don't just decide, I'm going to hold myself personally accountable for 365 consecutive days. It ain't nothing going to go wrong. That's not how that takes place. And oh, let's give Nola congratulations. Yesterday, she finished her third 365-day challenge, the self-care challenge. So she has 365-day challenges under her belt or on her wall, soon to be. She already told me she's making space for her certificate for today that she will receive. Now, the Dr. Donna's real leadership insight is this. A real leader knows the brain, like running shoes, must be broken in through daily training. Protect it, align it, and use it to go the distance. And so your brain needs protection, and no protects it. Or regulating your emotions protects your brain. And I've not said this in a couple days, but ask yourself when you're doing things, does this benefit my brain? Does this benefit my brain? And if it doesn't benefit your brain, don't do it. Don't do it, because if it's not benefiting, it's to your detriment. And now you're going to have to find yourself trying to recover from something neurologically because you didn't ask yourself this pivotal question. Is this going to benefit my brain? Does this benefit my brain? And if it doesn't, don't do it. All right, what questions do you have about the 5 metaphoric regions for the brain being like running shoes? It's preparation and protection, performance and efficiency, support and alignment, adaptability, and growth and endurance. Because we're going to move on to me and my perspective as running shoes for a brain metaphor. So if it's clear, let me know. Let me know. Let me know. And don't think because Nola is my child that she gets breaks or she gets slacks. She will tell everybody it's harder. It's harder for her than it is for me because she got direct contact and access with me. So don't think for any moment like it's like, oh yeah, her 365 days. Yeah, she gets it worse. She does. Because I'm like, you half of me. 50% of you is me. I wish you would come out here looking like this and doing wrong. What is wrong with you? I gave birth to you. Do you understand? You represent me. So, yes, it is. Yeah, it's worse for me, though. I am the worst one. I'm harder on myself than anybody else. And then my offspring is next. So by no means was it easy for her. And how she got to 3 challenges is because Nola was cutting the food. She was acting like she didn't have no damn sense. And so she came home. Nola, was it Real Leader Advanced where I took all your leadership stuff, or was it RL365? I forgot which one it was, but she literally was acting like she had no damn sense. And so I got out of the car. We were leaving out of our gate. I got out of the car and I said, you'll be going to this appointment by yourself. And I walked back through the man gate, punched the code in, and came back to the house. And when Miss Nola returned from her appointment, so this is how she ended up and how she began her first challenge, which is RL365. So she's done RL365, RL Advanced, and a self-care challenge. So what she did, she was not being accountable, and I had enough. So I got out the car, walked back. I mean, we literally were like 100 feet from the main gate. I walked back into the gate, and she comes home from her appointment. And so she has 2 copies of Real Leaders Wear Pink. When I first made it, it was 8 by 11, and it was too small. So she has that original copy. It's only like 10 of those, so I'm sure they're going to be worth a lot of money one day. And then the actual copy. And then she also had, and y'all know I don't play, these, which are our Real Leader. These are all, we made these so we can memorize the principles of real leadership. So I made her a copy, and I have a copy. And so when she came home, the 2 copies of Real Leaders Wear Pink were taken away from her and put in my library, and I destroyed her cards. And I said, you will earn being a real leader because you are not one. So you are going to start from scratch. She lost her damn mind. How could you take my books? How could you take my stuff? Where are my cards? I tore them up and put them in the trash and said you do not have access to them. And you are going to be in RL365. You're going to understand what it means to be a real leader. So that's how she ended up in RL365, because I do not play when it comes to real leadership. You don't want to be a real leader? I tell you, access to me is a privilege. And I know it seems simple and easy peasy, lemon squeezy, but you would have thought I took her car, her bank account, and everything else when she came home and those 2 books were gone. And it took a while for her to get those two books back because they were given to her for her to read because she had been reading Really to Her Pink since she was 11, and she popped off. And so she found out how quickly something that you value can be taken away from you. So that's how she ended up in her first challenge. Then she needed to strengthen herself. Self-care challenge was she was once again not doing things behaviorally that needed to take place. And so we developed the customized self-care challenge for her, and she has now improved behaviors. Hence, that's why I know you can't just go and hold yourself personally accountable, because she had been my child and wasn't personally accountable. And then that's when I really knew that it was neurological and that it doesn't matter what's in your DNA, the amygdalas be amygdala-ing. And that's that. So now y'all over there probably like, damn, poor Nola. No, she don't deserve no hug or nothing else. She got what she needed, which was calibration. All right, hold others, and then everything improved from that point forward. So you got to hold yourself and others personally accountable. All right, next, Dr. Donna's real leader perspective for running shoes as a brain metaphor. Oh, and then do y'all have any questions on what took place for her? And that's why it's really good for her. And I don't care about those mental illnesses either. That don't mean shit. It's all neurological. You can wire around a mental illness. And she has 3. So, yeah, no excuses. Team, no excuses. Okay. So the real leader perspective, running shoes as a brain metaphor. Number 1 is personal accountability. Apropos, we just talked about holding Ola personally accountable. So just as no one else can run the miles for you, no one else can train your brain for you. A real leader takes responsibility for lacing up daily, committing to consistent mental and leadership growth. I am going to say that again. Personal accountability. Just as no one can run the miles for you, no one else can train your brain for you. A real leader takes responsibility for lacing up daily, committing to consistent mental and leadership growth. And that is what I determined. That's what I realized. I could tell you, I could do it for you. You still ain't gonna have no synaptic connections. You have to make those synaptic connections yourself. I can't run your miles for you. I can't create those neural pathways for you in your brain. If I do the work for you, then I get the synaptic connections. I get the neural pathways. And that's what happened with working with my sister. She put everything on me, and I left with all the skills. That's why she ain't been able to replicate. And then none of that stuff from 2010 to 2013. Not a drop of it. Because I left with the neuroplasticity and the neural pathways, and she left with the results of that. And that's why none of that shit is still there. Number 2, preparedness and protection. And somebody type something to make sure the comments working before I go to this one, so I will know if I need to go log into YouTube and look on my tablet as well. If you just type text anything. Okay, I'll be listening, understanding the lesson. Something. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, cool. All right, preparedness and protection. Running shoes shield you. Running shoes shield you from injury. The brain shields you from poor decisions when trained, which is why I went no screens, because I am training Amy and Lala. I'm in charge. A real leader understands that protecting their mindset is as critical as protecting their stride. Guarding against negativity, left and right amygdala, negativity bias, impulsivity, right amygdala, and burnout. People taking complete advantage of you because you are a nice person and you're personally accountable. So you have to protect your mind like runners protect their stride. So you're guarding against negativity, impulsivity, and burnout. Number 3, alignment and support. Shoes keep the body aligned. The brain aligns vision with action. So a real leader inspects what they expect, which we just did a couple days ago, ensuring their thoughts, words, and behaviors stay in sync. So supporting you and those around you the way arch supports stabilizes a runner. So you understand that the brain aligns vision with action. Inspect what you expect. And so you're ensuring that your words, your thoughts, and your behavior all stay in sync. Number 4, adaptability and neuroflexibility. Runners change shoes for the track, the trail, or the marathon. And a real leader trains neuroflexibility by adjusting their brain and their leadership style to meet the terrain of uncertainty, challenge, or opportunity. And the example that I would like to use here is my dissertation, which was based upon Robert Northhouse path goal theory, which said that leadership is situational. So depending on the situation is the leadership style that you will use. And because of that, you can create high performance teams, which at Frito-Lay was level 4 teams from a continuous improvement master trainer perspective. So I don't always approach every situation exactly the same way. That would be fixed leadership with a fixed mindset, and that's not going to work. And so again, using cognitive flexibility and the 74 principles of real leadership, you are able to adapt and neuroflex, basically depending on the situation. And so you are using the terrain, which is your day-to-day environment, and any challenges that show up, which is yesterday, or any opportunities for growth. So you can see something that should be a problem that would throw the average person off their square, and you can look at it and say, oh, so there are 6 billion adults in the world who don't know how to use their brain. Challenge accepted. Roger that. Let's see how many people will be able to use their brain before I check on out of here. So adaptability and neuroflexibility. And then number 5 is endurance and growth. Breaking in shoes requires patience. Strengthening synapses requires repetition. So a real leader knows mastery is built over time. Mile after mile, pathway after pathway, thought after thought, and habit after habit. Endurance is leadership's true finish line. And so there are 86 billion neurons in your brain, and in order for you to make 860 billion synaptic connections, you are going to have to endure pathway after pathway, thought after thought, good habit after good habit in order for you to make those connections. So Dr. Donna's real leadership lens is this. A real leader doesn't just wear the shoes, they run the miles. So if you ever had a gym membership, you always see somebody at the green drink thing or sitting down or chit-chatting next to a machine. They ain't doing shit. Move out the way. I'm trying to use this leg machine. Real leaders run the miles. Don't just lace up and be like, look at my new running shoe. And they got the Air Max and the shock absorbers and all of that too. And they got the gel bubble and and these laces. These was $250. Yep, these are some nice shoes. And then put them back in the box. That's not real leadership. You have to run the miles. So real leaders train the brain daily. That's what anytime you're in a challenge, anything that you do for your brain, you are training it daily. Every day that you're on a live, every day that you say no to the things that aren't benefiting your brain and yes to the things that are, you are training. You are aligning it and adapting it and enduring with it until leadership becomes second nature. I have watched my child go from just kind of being a real leader to being a real leader to making connections to being able to see things. And I will tell her, 6 months ago, you wouldn't have recognized that. A year ago, you wouldn't have been able to say that. You wouldn't have been able to put that together. You wouldn't have been able. The one thing that she would do is clients would come up at the end of an appointment and ask her, can we put this next thing together? And she would say yes. And then we'd be exhausted for like 4 days. Be trying to recover. And now she says, I got another appointment. Not going to be able to do that today. Schedule another appointment. That's not something that would have happened. She was not telling them no. Not something. We get in the car tired. I'm mad at her, yelling at her, cursing her out. Like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? And now we got to go do this and this. We could be late to another appointment behind it. And now none of that is happening. The brain is braining. And so it happens when you're focused on it daily. Decision by decision, habit by habit, day by day. You are adapting and growing, adjusting the neural pathway along the way because of cognitive flexibility. And that's what makes the brain fantastic, especially the real leader brain. So what questions do you have about Dr. Donna's perspective from a real leader perspective using running shoes as a brain metaphor? So same concepts: personal accountability, preparedness and protection, alignment and support, adaptability and neural flexibility, and then endurance and growth. If it is clear, let me know, and I will give y'all the exercises to the activities to strengthen your running shoes brain. And my flash drive just dropped when I picked up the cards. Any questions? Is it clear? Clear. Boom, boom, boom. Clear from Ms. Rogers. All right, so here are some activities to strengthen the running shoes brain. Number 1, personal accountability. So you're going to do a daily mental warm-up. You're going to write one leadership goal every morning. Every morning, you're going to write one leadership goal. And if you're ever at a loss, go to the website, turnarounddoctor.com, go to the 74 Principles of Real Leadership tab, and we will be switching the website over between today and Tuesday. So it won't look like that anymore. It'll be even simpler than it is now. And you're going to write down one leadership goal every morning. And then what you're going to do is a self-check run. So at the end of the day, with a quick reflection, you're going to ask yourself, did I run my miles today? So did I take responsibility for my day? And you can even have an accountability partner to share your commitments with someone who runs alongside of you. So get you a battle buddy. That's what we used to have in the Army. Your battle buddy helps you through basic training in AIT. And again, what am I going to do today from a real leader's perspective? I'm going to have one goal, and then when I get to my end of my day, I'm going to check to make sure I did it, and I'm going to confer with one of my battle buddies, accountability partners, to say, yep, I did it. Did you do yours? I did mine. Okay, roger that. Number 2 is preparedness and protection. So a mindfulness cool down. 5 to 10 minutes of mindful breathing to reduce impulsivity. And again, if you have not done so already, if you already know how to meditate and breathe, you don't need to do it. But if you don't, download an app, a breathing app, a meditation app, because that is what regulates your emotions. That is that breathing is going to calm it down. It's going to be accustomed to being calm, and it's strengthening your prefrontal cortex. So this is called stress shielding, and it creates mental shoe inserts by building routines. And so you can also have hydration, sleep, and exercise. This protects your brain. As we know in the BDNF, every time you exercise, that's the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I hate that name. BDNF, all of that is taking place. We talked about sleeping. Taking naps is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. I begin every live telling you to hydrate because it is important. And so what this does is, from a decision rehearsal perspective, before acting, visualize the outcome, like checking your laces before a run. So before you make a decision, think about it. Is this going to work? Is this going to bode well for me? All right. Number 3, alignment and support. Vision and action matching drill. So you're going to write down a goal and immediately list 3 aligned actions. And what this does is, this is habit tracking. So you can use a calendar or app to visually track alignment between your words and your actions. And Jessica and Nola, I know both of you use calendars and reminders to ensure that you're acting and doing what you need to do. And so this is the posture of leadership. So what you're going to do is practice standing tall when speaking. Body alignment signals brain alignment. And so I say that when you are exercising, your core needs to be tight. That's why my core is tight. And so your posture matters. I even have videos about you sitting down like this. You don't have a command presence. When you do this, everything is aligned, and you are aligning yourself from a real leadership perspective as well. Number 4, adaptability and neuroflexibility. It's terrain switching. So do a familiar task in a new way. Take a different route to work. Brush with your non-dominant hand. Do something different to mix it up. And so you can also do brain interval training, and you alternate between logic puzzles and creative decoding, switching gears like changing pace. And that's what I've mentioned. When I'm preparing for the live, I'm actually using left hemisphere. When I start making these graphics that are behind me, I'm using right hemisphere, and I change it up. And then you're going to challenge, embrace. So seek one uncertainty each week, a new project, a new conversation, to train your trail shoes, the distance shoes. Challenge yourself is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And embrace change is another principle of real leadership. So a challenge embrace means that you are using those two principles, which is creating a new neural pathway, and you want to do that once a week at a minimum. Next is number 5. It's endurance and growth. Daily reps of learning. Spend 15 minutes learning something new, mile by mile, synapse by synapse. And that's why I say read 15 minutes of nonfiction every single day, whether you're on this live or not, because you are creating that neural pathway. And you're also improving your working memory. And the hippocampus bank of neurons is going to keep giving you deposits of new neurons as you keep learning and growing. Next, you have to have micro habits. So break large goals into small, repeatable actions that train your stride. And I've said this, don't try to eat an elephant all at once. Do everything small, and now it will work your way up to something big. And so each person by each person is getting me closer to the goal of 6 billion adults. So I'm not like, where are 6 billion people at? Because it takes time and I have to make adjustments. Every time something happens with one person, I'm like, okay, let's annotate that. Okay, we got to change that. Why did that not work? Okay, that did work. Okay, let's do that. So every person, every challenge, every day that someone does something, it is giving me endurance and it's helping with the process of getting to 6 billion adults. And long run leadership. You commit to a long-term practice, weekly reflection for 90 days to improve endurance, and it builds leadership muscles. And so that's what I do. I'm always constantly evaluating what's taking place. Did this work? Do I need to improve something? How do I get this to the next level? And so when I started lives November 4th of 2023, you could have told me 659 days later, I'd still be here. And doing the level of work that I'm doing now. Because before it was like click live and that's it. But those incremental days is what allows me to be able to do it consistently and with a logical message every single day. So what questions do you have about the activities? And the one that I like the best is that write down that one goal every day. So just like with a yoga practice, they tell you to set your intentions for your practice. When you have a goal every day, you are setting your intentions for the day. So if Amy and Lala pop off, if unaccountable people around you pop off, you get to go back to that goal. And yesterday I did the main thing for the PA and for the real leader brain, because the main thing is the main thing that actually came from Stephen Covey. Everybody else says it, but he's the originator of the quote. And so what happens is that is what gets you back on track for the day. So whatever that intention is, yesterday I said no matter what happens, I'm not getting my amygdala hijacked by Amy or Lala, and so then a bunch of shit started happening. Whole bunch of stuff. I was like, and I just kept going. Doing a goal of the day is going to really help. Yes. So a goal of the day. If it's I'm going to stay awake, I'm not going to take a nap. If it's I'm going to stay focused, whatever it is, then when you get to the end of your day, you assess. And and I snapped at Nola 3 times yesterday, and I had to apologize because I was like, I apologize for snapping at you. And it was just so much was happening. Amy and Lala really wanted to win yesterday, and they were not victorious. Haha. There you go. I did not give in to the twins. Okay, so Dr. Donna's real leadership lens is a real leader trains the brain like a runner trains the body through daily reps, protective routines, flexible strategies, and endurance practices that build strength mile after mile. So that is what is taking place. So your running shoes, brains metaphor, now you have one, and you can think of it in a different way. Now, I would like some feedback on this process of using metaphors, because Nola and I had a conversation about the grapefruit brain. So I'm always growing, learning, and changing, thinking of new innovative ways to get this message across. So what are your thoughts about the concept of using inanimate objects for brain metaphors? Because I'm just trying to find ways that it will stick, because adults learn differently. And pick things that people are familiar with. So even if you aren't a runner, you've seen a pair of running shoes. You've seen somebody run. No, it says, I understand. Let me switch to today's brain bit. Got it. I was more looking for feedback and saying, is this helpful? So I was looking for feedback on, does it help understand more, the same, less? I'm gonna do the brain bit and get on up out of here. Get on up out of here, up out of here. Okay, Lola. This is very helpful for me. Thanks. I really had to stop working out to get this. Thanks a lot. Oh, well, I didn't want you to have to stop. Okay. All right. Well, you get your workout shoes on. There you go. All right. Yes, great comparison and analogy. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure y'all getting it. Now, let me slide on out the way because y'all can see right here, I'm doing my little Vanna White. And Jessica said, this one's helping me because I've already implemented some of these goals. And with the problems I had yesterday, I really needed this formatting. Yes, ma'am. That's awesome. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate the feedback. So this, and then Nola, the graphics are cute. I thought so. Don't they look adorable? Me and Chad had a good time last night. Even after and this was me making these, y'all, after we came home from a very intense day. So that's that endurance that I was talking about, because it started out when I left and Whole Foods didn't have the wild caught shrimp that I needed because I was going to make gumbo. And then I went to Trader Joe's and it wasn't open. The other Whole Foods was closed. Went back to Whole Foods, ended up making something different. And yeah, so errands that was supposed to take like 35 minutes took over 2 hours. And the day just went from there. So even after all that and the appointments and everything, I still was able to come home and make these graphics. Now, the texting brain, the question to you is this: how many brain regions do you use to send a text message? How many brain regions do you use to send a text message? And see, I got my workout brain t-shirt on too. This is the closest I had to my running shoes. How many brain regions do you use to send a text? A text. Lola says 7. Jessica said 5. I thought it was 6. Nola said 8. I thought it was 6. Don't say 6 because that ain't it. Kevin said 8 to 10. Winner chicken dinner is Kevin. It is 9. 9 brain regions to send a text. And think about how many times you texted. You're like, damn, if I open the door, wash the dishes, brush my teeth, and send a text message, I'm at 40 brain regions. Thousands of synaptic connections to do those very simple tasks. Here are the brain regions that you use to send a text. Number 1 is the prefrontal cortex, and it plans what you want to say, and it directs attention to the phone and conversation. Number 2 on the list is the Broca's area, the left frontal lobe. It generates the words and the sentence structure for your message. Number 3 is the Wernicke's area, and it's in the left temporal lobe. And it helps you understand language and choose the right words. Sometimes we don't choose the right words. We choose the words. Okay, number 4 is the motor cortex. And it controls your thumbs and fingers to tap the letters on the screen. Number 5 is the basal ganglia, and it automates repetitive texting motion, muscle memory for typing. I typed the message the other day to Nola in the store with my thumbs. I thought my whole arm was going to catch on fire. But my wrist was like, this is too painful. And number 6 is the cerebellum. It coordinates smooth, precise movements of your hands while typing. Number 7 is the visual cortex and the occipital lobe. It reads the words on the screens and checks for errors. Mine doesn't always do a good job of that. Next is the hippocampus, is number 8. It retrieves the memories like a friend's name, spelling, or inside jokes. And then number 9, gotta have Amy in there, Amy and Lala. It adds emotional tone, excitement, anger, love, and other emotions to your message. So the brain bit takeaway is sending a simple text is actually a whole brain workout, blending planning, language, memory, movement, vision, and emotion into one quick action. I know you texting, you're not even thinking about that. But now you are. You're not going to be able to unthink about what I said. Every time you send a text message, 9 brain regions are coordinating with thousands of synaptic connections for you to type nope, yup, yes, what, I bet you won't, you ain't said, and you get a very long message, 9 brain regions for a simple text message. That's a lot. That is a lot of brain regions for something that you just aren't even conscious of. But now you are. All right. So what did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn today? And what did you learn about yourself? I learned that I like the metaphor brains lessons because it gives me an opportunity to stretch myself. Got like a little dopamine serotonin thing going on. My nucleus accumbens is happy, happy, happy. Joy, joy, joy. And my vision when people start to hold themselves personally accountable too, it's just like, you know how people just talk about things. They're like, oh yeah, I went to go do my workout. This is what I made for dinner. I want people to be talking about their brain in that same capacity. Jessica said, I learned today that I am breaking in my running shoes. Yes. Don't you like how that sounds, Jessica? I like how that reads. What you doing? Breaking in my running shoes? That's what I'm doing. Yes, I am. Mile after mile, meter after meter. I'm creating my endurance. I also like that I have been doing some of the things daily naturally to start building my endurance. My endurance also. I can find when I don't want to watch the live, the most I get, the most out of it. Ow! Did y'all hear that? When I don't want to watch the live the most, I get the most out of it. Yes, ma'am. I agree. What happened? Somebody was sending a message on top of my phone too. Yep. That's what happens. And when you're feeling like you don't want to do it, it's because that's the amygdala trying to stop you from getting a breakthrough and stop you from getting what you actually need. Nola is thinking. Kevin said, today learn that running shoes keeps your body aligned. Yes, they do. That's why when you get old, you start putting on them orthotics so you can keep everything where it's supposed to be. Noah said, I learned the brain has to be adaptable like running shoes. Yes, and you need different running shoes depending on what's taking place. So you can't put no spikes on if we start hiking up Red Rock. That's not going to work because they're unbalanced. So you don't want them trying to grip those rocks. You're going to lose your balance on there. So you got to have the right shoes for the right trail, the right path. So you got to have the right neural pathways in place for the right environment. And running in a toxic environment is harder than running in a non-toxic environment. So if your brain has to run in a toxic environment, it's not going to function properly because you're going to be trying to breathe. If you can't get no oxygen to the brain, it's not going to function properly. In 5 to 10 minutes of no oxygen, then it means your brain dead. Do. Just waiting on Kevin's self, and we'll get on out of here. Busy day today. Busy day. And I learned I got a lot of stuff out there on the internet because chat is picking up my stuff. I know I keep saying that, but it's shocking to me. I mean, if you spend years and years and years putting things out there that nobody sees, and then I'm just like, but I got to keep putting this out here. I had no reason. I didn't know why I was doing it. And then the next thing you know, chat just goes and gathers it and gives it back to me. Kevin said, myself, I have to learn to avoid mental injuries. Yes. And it's like running against the wind. It is, Jessica. And what that's doing is that's resistance training. So if you're working out, think of the resistance bands. You can Google a video of somebody using resistance bands, or you use them. I have some sitting there by my dresser. And what happens is that I learned this terminology from Frito-Lay, the training they purchased from somebody else, but it's called headwinds and tailwinds. So tailwinds, if you think about a wind that's coming from behind you, is pushing you so you can get there simpler. But a headwind means in swim upstream, Jessica, is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. That's hard to do as well. So headwinds means that you're walking into the wind, and that's going to take more effort. But what it does is it strengthens you so that when some tailwinds show up, you're going to be moving even faster. And so that's what gives you the mental strength to be able to do what you need to do. So if you don't have those instances like the day I had yesterday, then you don't get to strengthen the prefrontal cortex, and the amygdala ends up being stronger than the prefrontal cortex. So the only way to strengthen the prefrontal cortex is to have that cognitive overload. As I mentioned with my daughter, with 4.5 years ago, that mom bed was 2.5 hours. And because she has challenged herself so many different ways, it's 35. It's like, oh, we got a mom bed, we're going to be out. But she hung up a shelf and put a shoe cabinet together for the same client on 2 different days. We was there less than 30 minutes. And both of those could have took hours years ago. So it's strengthening you. And what happens is, because you have all these new neural pathways, when you go back to that thing that seems so complicated, you're like, I got that. That's nothing. And then Lola said, I learned by having the solution how to do it is very beneficial to me. Yes, ma'am. And so, yes, Kevin, those mental injuries, I was about to say industries because you're an entrepreneur, just go to entrepreneurship when thinking about you. So, yes, those mental injuries are burnout and poor decision making. Tell people no. And don't do anything without a strategy. Sit on your hands. Somebody won't force you to an answer is no. And and then sit on your hands. That's what they tell us to do in Al-Anon until we can make a more informed decision. But you have to take care of you first. Does this benefit my brain? And if it does, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. I would not still be supporting my child in her business if I was not getting brain benefits and attacking all of my own fears as well. Definitely not as much of a germaphobe as I used to be, and I don't cringe when I see hardware and stuff coming out of boxes that needs to be put together. So these are the metaphors work because it's clearer, it's less technically, it's less technical jargon, and so then you can see it and you can use that information to say, yeah, I can put on my running shoes. I know what I'm doing. I got grapefruit brain. I'm not going to take the bitter. I'm going to take the sweet and reframe it. So these are things that you can actually use. And what I find interesting as I'm closing is that we learned a certain way in elementary school and it worked. And then everything that we use in elementary school, pictures, music, sounds, colors, energetic videos, and all of that, it stopped. And then it's by 7th grade, we got to be realistic. And so we can't have that anymore. Lola said, I have been winging myself by trying to figure it out today. Lola, you're going to have to help me out on that one. Trying to figure it out today. I think it didn't come through. So I'll wait. But while I wait. So that learning format actually worked. And then we stopped learning. That's why Nola said today that the brain graphics are cute. And then we stopped. But the brain wants that. The brain wants the creative side. And in order for you to maintain bilateralness, you need the creative side and you need the logic side. And you need to put that together. And that's why learning can still be fun. Even well after you get your diplomas and your degrees, you still have the ability to be able to learn. But it's like, nope, black and white text. That's why we like memes so much, because like, oh, that's funny. It's a photo and this, and that makes sense. So you get to do those things. And learning is beneficial. ABLing, always be learning and growing and developing. Your brain will reward you for that. And I'm just saying, got a little shortness of breath today. Just breathing, I'll tell you. I'm going to have to use some nasal spray today. I have been trying to. Are you doing speech to text? And we're about to have a cool front this week. It's only going to be in the 90s. They said that when we were at somebody's house, double digits. They said, yeah, we're only going to be in the double digits next week. But you actually can't. It will feel cool because it'll only be like 78 degrees when we wake up in the morning. You can actually feel that 10-degree difference. We might have to be outside today. My texting, I'm off in the gym, not coming through. Okay, it's okay, Lola. You can send me a message if you want to. I get it, because you working out anyway. So the fact that you're still working out and listening and all of that, that makes sense. All right. So I will be back tomorrow, God willing, higher power and the universe, with a new message for your amazing brain. Same time, same place, safe space, different brain t-shirt. You all go off and have a running shoe brain-tastic day. Take care.